In 1982, Gary returned to the world of music. He recorded a new album with a new band and was once again leading the way. His unique way of developing the fretless bass as a lead instrument was as innovative then as his use of the synthesizer had been in 1979. It was a mixture of jazz, electronic and dance music that was considerably ahead of its time. Did you start writing I Assassin, Gary?
It was during the Around the World flight. I remember the first song was Chameleons, the Music of Chameleons song. And I was somewhere between Kansas and Houston. The only reason I can remember it is it was all like checkerboards. The fields were all like checkerboards for hundreds and hundreds of miles. And I was humming it away to myself, and Bob turned me off because he didn't like it. And that's the only reason I can remember it. It sort of started there, but that was about the only tune I got out of that trip, really. And then I finished it off after Christmas and sort of early part of that year, really, which is 82, I think.
How did it sell?
Didn't do very well, that one. In fact, I think that's probably the worst selling one that I've ever had, I Assassin, which was a shame because I actually thought the plan on it was excellent. There were people like Pino and Palladino, who's Paul Young now, and Roger Mason, the Australian, had been with me before. Chris Slade used to be with Uriah Heep and some other people. They had some really good players on it, and yet just didn't do that much. That's the other thing, we had 3 chart singles after that before it was released. And normally if you have like 1 or 2 chart singles you can expect the album to do good business. With 3, I think one of them was top 10, 1 or 2 of them were top 10, I can't remember now, but they did very well. And the album did about, I don't know what it was actually, about 40,000, which is, you know, Replicas did just under 300,000, so it's quite a drop.
Is a real disappointment.
Well, I didn't know at that time how badly it had done, really. I didn't find out for quite a few years that the sales are actually that low at the end of the day. And so at the time, I didn't. I just thought the 3 singles doing really well was great, and the album was out, sort of got somewhere in the chart, and I thought that was fine. But I knew it wasn't the same as Replicas and Pleasure Principle, and that sort of height of it all had died off a little bit. I didn't mind because you expect it anyway. You expect to find some kind of a level. And I thought having 3 chart singles in 1 year when I wasn't even around, because I was in America for the year, was pretty good going. So I didn't honestly take that much notice of it, the actual amount of records it sold. And so when I actually found out it was too late, I wasn't that bothered by it because things had picked up a bit.
before you left Britain, or did you finish it whilst you was in America?
No, did it all before I left. I think I left on early April the 4th or something like that, and it was all mainly written and recorded, a few months before that. Apart from, like I said, the Comedian's tune was in my head already, but that's probably about the most efficient bit of writing and recording I've ever done, actually.
What about the song War Song? What was that about?
It's a slightly light-hearted look about sort of being famous, it's something that I like Ferraris and all this sort of business. I can't remember the lyric that well, sort of in the individual lines, so I had to sort of pull it apart. But it was mainly, most of the lines are fairly light-hearted sort of looks at what it's like being famous. Having gone through all the paranoid bit and more or less sort of being quite happy with it now, I'm sort of used to it.
cover shot that was taken for that, what street was that taken on?
It wasn't. It was done in a room just off of Oxford Street. In fact, Replicas, Pleasure Principle, Telecon, Dance, Assassin, and some of the later albums were all done in this room in about the 3rd or 4th floor of Jeff Howe's studio. And what he does is you say, right, I want to look like I'm in a street, and you walk up into his room and it's like he's built a street in his room. And it's ever so clever. All of those albums were all done in the same 20 foot by 20 foot room. A bit smaller than that, I think, actually. All of them. Yeah, he is actually ever so clever. And what he was doing on the Assassin one, he had this little spray can of water, a little plastic spray thing of water. And every so many minutes he'd come over and spray me with water to make it look like I was outside, and he'd spray it all over the floor to make it look like it was slightly damp and it had been raining. And it really worked well, because so many people thought it was a street.
Very clever.
I keep wanting to find out where it is, yeah. A bit like the old Ziggy Stardust thing, where people go and try and find a telephone box. And the K West sign.
Now, can you tell us about this so-called plane crash? What actually happened? Was it a plane crash?
It did crash, yes. What happened was, there was me and a friend of mine who actually used to be my instructor, but at that particular time I was flying executive aeroplanes, light jets, that kind of thing. Very, very highly qualified man. He was flying it, or in charge of it. Then there was my dad in the back, and a man called Bill Fowler, who worked for WA. He still does, I think, for WA. He was like a friend of ours, especially my dad's very close to my dad. And we was coming back from Cannes. There's a festival in France called like the Medium Festival, which all the business goes, and lots of wheeling and dealing goes on, publishing, all that sort of stuff, you know. And been over to do something over there. I can't remember what it was now. And we was coming back from there. The weather was really bad. Now I hadn't been flying that long then, really. And the reason my friend was there was because on these long journeys, even as after around the world trip, obviously Bob did most of the planning and flying on that. And I was still, I wasn't very good at it on my own. And so I used to take this man along, and I would learn from him how to do it. Which I, unfortunately, because of the kind of flying around the world trip was, I couldn't really learn that much from Bob. Different sort of people. And that's why it was there, you know, so we're going back and he's saying, no, you do this and you do that, you do whatever. And I started to get a bit worried, because it had taken us about, I think, 4 hours, 3.5 to 4 hours to get there. And we've been flying for about 5 hours now, and across the French coast. A little bit of doubt starting to creep in, you know. And then one of the fuel gauges is showing empty, and the other one is showing a quarter. But we did have this electrical problem, and I said to my friend, I don't like the look of this, you know, we've loaded on 7.5 hours of fuel, and we've been flying for 5. Now we should have at least sort of quarter tanks on both those at the very least. It should be a bit more than that, really. And yet one of them's showing empty. And he said, well, you can't really trust the gauges because, you know, we've got this electrical problem. They're probably not reading correctly. And just as he said that, so the one that said a quarter went plonk down to 0. And I thought, oh, he's right, obviously, right, because it just happened in front of my eyes. But I still had this sort of nagging suspicion. And we're going off across the channel. We finally get to Channel and go across that. And eventually we get back to land, the English coast, going into Southampton. The Southampton airfield is in sight. We're sort of going along quite low, actually, getting underneath the weather. We're down to about 800 feet, keeping underneath the cloud, and it was a little bit wet and drizzly. And the engine just stopped, just completely failed. And so I turned onto the other fuel tank, and it fired back up again. And I thought, whoa, now that's a bit... If one tank's out, then the other one probably is out, and the gauges probably are right, and for some reason or other we've got a fuel leak or whatever. So the few seconds after that we said, if it stops again, my friend to fly the aeroplane, I'll do the gear, get the undercarriage down, because with a dead engine the undercarriage wouldn't come down on its own. You have to hand pump it down. And we're very, very low, so it had to be real quick, because it takes some time to come down on that. And that was what we decided to do. And as soon as we decided to do it, and the bloody thing stopped again. Yeah, so I turned the tank back to the original one, but that was it. It was gone, and we did a brilliant job. I mean, it really did. It got us into this field. It was an L-shaped field, and all this talk about landing on the motorway is absolute rubbish. We landed in a big field in a place called Botley, and we went skidding across this field, and it was wet grass, and we went in ever so fast because we more or less had to dive to get into it. We couldn't put any flaps down, which is a thing on an airplane which helps you to have a slower speed when you're landing, and without them you tend to come in fairly fast. And we were going across this field, and we knew that we couldn't stop in time because there's a little country lane at the end of it and some houses. And so we tried to turn it to the right, and what happened, it just skidded sideways on the wet grass, and the left undercarriage leg collapsed completely, so it went down onto its belly, and by that time it's then out of control. You can't stop it, you can't do anything with it. And we skidded off, hit an embankment at the end of the field. The aeroplane took off again. The right wing hit a telegraph pole which sliced right into the wing, but what that did was to spin it around this telegraph pole, and then we come down nose first right in the middle of this country lane. It looked like we'd landed on it. But if you actually look at the photographs that some people took at the time, there's all telegraph poles and trees along each side of the road, and it would have been impossible for us to land along it. You can see that we couldn't have done because the aeroplane's wings are wider than that. So what we actually did was come through this hole, between these telegraph poles and off this field, and just spin around one of them and stop there. And everyone sat there for it seemed like forever, but it's probably just a second or two. And I was the first to come to my senses, and I shouted to everybody to get out because we didn't know at that time that it had run out of fuel. We just thought it had failed, and we thought it still had loads of fuel left in it. And that was that. We just legged it and went off.
Now, I heard that you actually rescued a passenger. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, Bill. In the back of it. Poor old Bill. Bill wasn't, Steve probably isn't anymore either. He was never that keen on flying, and he was sort of there to show faith with me. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people had sort of taken the mickey out around the world trip. And I don't, my dad was sitting beside him, and he definitely doesn't think that he knew that we was crashing. He thought we was just landing. He hadn't really grasped what's going on. Which isn't really to our credit, because we should have turned around and said, we're going down. But personally, I thought it was fairly obvious, so I just didn't think of it. But Bill just isn't into aviation at all, and didn't realise. And so we've gone pouncing across this field and hit these trees and crashed and all the rest of it, and bent all the airplane up, and everyone's all run off. And he's sitting there, like on another planet. He sort of, when it had all happened and it had all crashed, he sort of got a bit shocked by it and just sat there. And he's quite a big bloke. And as I ran past the window, I saw him. And so I had to go back and get in, and I was terrible. I thought it was going to blow up any second. So I've got in, I've had to undo his seatbelt, and I put his arms around the back of my neck and just dragged him out and sort of dragged him up the road. And he wasn't really doing much for himself, And so that's what happened there, really. But I was a bit worried about it, because I really think it's going to go up, and I've got a real phobia about burning.
Talk us through the actual plane as it was crashing. When you're sitting in that cockpit, how does it feel knowing that you're controlling or trying to control a plane which is going to crash, and you know it?
Well, my friend was actually doing the physical handling of it. As it was going down, I was doing the undercarriage. I'm actually bent over in my seat looking at the floor, because there's a lever there, an emergency undercarriage lever. We're trying pumping like mad to pump the wheels down. I'm shouting out to my dad, are they down yet? And first time they didn't come down, so I had to reselect it, put them back down, and then pump again like mad to get them to pump out. And then they did, and I remember as the thing went clunk, and that was a lot going in, I looked up over my shoulder, I was still bent over, and saw a tree going past higher than we were, and I sat upright, and as I sat upright, as we hit the ground, it was that close for the wheels to be out and locked. And if they weren't locked, we'd had it, because we'd have just ploughed in and we wouldn't have skidded anywhere. That would have been that. And we hit the ground and bounced back up again. And then, I suppose because you've got such a big adrenaline rush and you're so pumped up with all the excitement of what's going on, the shock of it and whatever it might be, everything goes into slow motion. And I can remember, as we were going across the field, I can remember seeing individual blades of grass coming past, And everything was slow, like all the dust in the airplane was going around, and as the airplane was bouncing up and down and shaking and roaring about, everything was really, really slow. And I can remember that the sounds of everything were very, very loud. Every single creak and groan and bang, whatever, you could hear it very, very loudly and very, very clearly. And all other kinds of noises, it's hard to explain, but you seem to focus in on all the noises that are relevant, and everything is wonderfully clear. Your vision is wonderfully clear. You know, you can see these things going past as though it's in slow motion. And we were doing well over 100 miles an hour at this particular point. And then as it was getting further along towards it, and we knew it wasn't going to stop, you know, we tried to turn it, as I said, and the leg collapsed and we were skidding along in our belly. And I can remember that we were seeing the bank coming towards us, and I thought that was it, you know, we was going to hit it and it would be crushed in. And I can remember wondering, and I spoke to my dad about this, and he said exactly the same thing. I didn't worry about my dad in the back, and he didn't worry about me. He wasn't sitting in the back thinking, poor old Gary's up the front, he's going to get it first. He was thinking exactly the same as me, and that was that you're sitting there, all your senses are pumped right up, and you're, in my case, I was wondering where it would hurt first, and it's done in a detached way. You were like sort of curious, interested about where it hurt first, and I was thinking, I wonder if it'd be my legs. And I can remember pulling them back as though that was going to make some difference. You know, thinking, I wonder if it'd like the control column would come back and hit me in the chest, or whether it would be in the side. I wonder how it would feel as the bits of metal start coming into you. And it's a really strange thing, and it's just like I say, you're curious. This is almost like it's not happening to you. It's like you're, like your mind moves itself 2 feet sideways and looks at you. And it's the strangest thing. And even in all the incidents on the Around the World trip, I'd never had anything like that. And as we got to the end of the field, I was really, really dreadfully worried that there was a house on the other side of the road, you see. And I had all sorts of pictures going through my mind of children playing. And the headlines, I was reading headlines as we was going across the field, what they were going to say about, you know, killing these children. I don't know if there's any there or not, I mean, you couldn't see, but I just imagined, you know, house, kiddies in the back garden, typical horror story, which always seems to be associated with accident. And as we got to the end of the field, there was an embankment there. And I can remember that me and my friend, we both pulled back from the stick instinctively. We must have still had enough speed on for the elevators to have some kind of effect, because the nose actually pitched up slightly. So we hit the top of this bank and ricocheted off. And I said this before about hitting the telegraph pole and that, but to sort of go into detail on it, it was still all in slow motion. And I can remember us going upwards, feeling the wing hit and rolling around. And as we sort of were pointing down towards the road, it seemed as though it took forever to stop, like the plane just stopped there. And I can remember looking down and being able to see all the individual stones and the white lines, and it must have been a split second, you know, because the thing was still travelling, and then it seemed to just like float down. And then, like I said before, we all sat there for a little bit, and I can remember thinking that it was so strange that nothing had hurt, and that almost like it was an anticlimax. So, you've stopped. You're not dead. You're not injured, and I can't honestly say that I was disappointed, but it was like you felt like something more should have happened. You know, this is all too simple to be the end of it. There hasn't been an explosion. There's no rending of metal coming in towards us. Something more than that should have happened, and it hadn't. And I think that was a reason for that slight pause before we got out. And then when your senses come back, you know, it comes back with a vengeance, and it's a mad panic, and you're scrambling to get out, and yet you're back in the real world again. But it really is the strangest thing. It's a wonderful thing to have gone through, to have had that kind of experience. Not something I'd want to go through again, but something that I'm very, very pleased I have done. And my dad says the same. Wouldn't have missed it for the world, because he'd come out of it all right. Wouldn't have missed it for the world. It's an experience that you can't buy. That sort of thing, you know, they don't sell things like that at a fairground. You can't get it anywhere else. It was strange. I only wish at the time I could have had I could have been able to record it somehow, so that I could replay it and explain to you better what it was like, because it's the strangest thing that you can ever go through, possibly. Certainly the strangest thing that I've ever gone through. Another thing that happened, even though we'd had an accident and there we were on the road, we wasn't allowed to leave the aeroplane, we wasn't allowed to leave the scene of the accident, because you have to temporarily export an aeroplane when it flies abroad, and so when you come back you have to re-import it. Officially it's all like customs paperwork, and so the police said that we had to stay there until the customs man arrived, so that we could re-import the aeroplane. And I thought that's a bit off, really, because when you have an accident like that, you are a little bit shocked at things. And you could do with a cup of tea is the English recipe for when you have an accident. You can have a cup of tea, and that's supposed to make everything all right, I suppose. And so there we were, standing in the middle of the road, waiting for this customs man to arrive. And he duly did, with all his uniform on. And I've actually got a photograph of me signing the form. No, not me, my mate did actually. Signing the form to re-import this wreck back into the country. And that was that. I thought that was a harsh, personally.
Conversation and you, I listen to stories that then chewed on my heart again. Oh, oh, oh. This is my house. Oh, oh, oh. Welcome. Patience in nice. Let's say you're mine. I'm Julia. Oh, oh, oh. This is my house. Oh, oh, oh. Welcome inside. Oh, oh, oh. This is my house.
Now, what was the reaction of the press?
To the accident?
Yeah.
Well, I think within a week, they'd said that I was flying it. That it's because I wasn't very good that it had crashed. Some papers said they actually did it on purpose to get publicity. And the biggest thing that came out of it was that we landed on the motorway in a rush hour. That was how the press treated it. And ever since then, it's never really improved that much. There's a little bit of late, but you obviously watch a television programme and say, Gary Newman will be dropping in later on, and they'd all duck. And so it's funny and light-hearted, and I'm sure that most of the country thought it was funny, except me at the time, because I knew what had happened, and I thought, no, my friend had done a tremendous job, and he wasn't even credited with flying the thing. They said that I did it, and instead of saying what a good job I'd done as the pilot, they decided to make fun of it.
And that's stuck ever since, hasn't it?
Most of it, yeah.
Do you still sort of detect that today from people?
Yeah, I had it recently. Sort of getting a bit out of context here, but I did a television show recently, which would be the end of '86. And the first thing they said when I went on there is, "Thank you for not landing in the car park." Again, yeah. All the musical criticism I could take relatively well, because opinion is opinion. You know, but if you can fly an aeroplane, you have the qualification and you've passed it, and you are of a certain standard, and that isn't down to opinion. And I was more upset about that than anything, really. Especially because that just followed the round the world trip, which I thought was a tremendous achievement, and they'd really sort of gone for me on that one as well, because they had one or two small problems, or 1 or 2 dozen small problems, but nothing really horrific. And it really wasn't my fault. I mean, the aeroplane had a problem, it developed a leak, and it dumped 2 hours of fuel, which is a lot of fuel, out, and we couldn't tell because of this electrical problem. And something else happened in there. What we suspect was that when the electrical problem occurred, one of the components of that was dragged around inside the engine and damaged the fuel line. And so you have a gauge in an airplane that says how much fuel you're using at that time. So you can work out, say you're using 9 gallons an hour. You time it, you've been going for so many hours, you used a little bit more than that at takeoff, you know exactly what it is, there's all graphs to show you. You can work out almost to the gallon, well, you can work out exactly to the gallon how much fuel you've used. And that thing dumped out well over 25 gallons of fuel, which is quite a bit for that particular airplane. And it wasn't our fault, it wasn't my friend's fault, it wasn't my fault, we just had a problem. The airplane had a history of problems. On the round the world trip, now the undercarriage, before we set off the undercarriage, doors come up before the wheels, things like that. Yeah, it just had a history of silly little things going wrong with it.
Didn't that accident affect your confidence at all? And did it take you a while to get back into sort of gaining your confidence to fly again?
For about a week after it was like the reaction to being so pumped up with the adrenaline and things. What was that we spent, me and my dad actually, we spent more or less a week sort of in bed, I suppose, really, not really doing much at all, just lounging around, and that was a complete reaction to that. It was everything was just really tired and listless the whole time, and that's just shock, you know, after the event. Neither of us went to a doctor or, you know, sort of any sort of kind of help for it. I just sort of felt that was all it was to it. I didn't feel ill, I just felt really tired and worn out. I think Bill Fowler, I mentioned before, from WA, he was more disturbed by it than we were, and he went to a health farm for a while and got himself back together again. I think it sort of shook him up quite a bit more, you know, sort of a few days later when it started to sink in what had happened. Me and my dad, as I say, we had about this week, and that was it. As far as confidence with flying itself is concerned, shortly after that, it didn't affect me in the slightest. In fact, about 2 or 3 days later, I had to do some very low flying for the Daily Mirror, with the photographer taking photographs of us. And so I was whizzing along, good 200 miles an hour, at very low level, long runways, this big multi-engine thing that I'd flown around the world in. And I didn't have any problems at all. The problem came later, because when I did my year out, for a lot of that time I wasn't flying. A good 6 months of that time I wasn't flying. Then I got to Jersey and started to fly again. And most of that stuff was done on single engines, apart from one of the ratings. And it was all done over sea, because it's a small island. You go off to one of the corners and do it over the sea. And then the thought of being back in a single engine aeroplane again after such a long time away from flying, which has been, and I'd stopped flying shortly after the accident because I'd gone to America. Then the confidence crisis came, and that lasted a long, long time. And I worked through it, and I did all these ratings, not only to sort of pass the time there and to get the ratings, but to try and combat this confidence thing, because I knew if I stopped then completely, and I'd have trouble. And it really did take me, it must have been years. I mean, that would have been, we're talking about 83 now, as I come back from Jersey, which was a good year after the accident. And I don't suppose I got really confident again until the middle or the end of 85, really, something like that, before I really, really felt confident in a single engine aeroplane again. It wasn't going to stop. The slightest little tremor, I would think, no, that's enough, and I'd go and land again, and that lasted for a long, long time, hours and hours and hours and hours of flying, and I would go to the airfield, and I would find any excuse at all not to fly it. I know I'd go home and feel really bad, and I'd feel like a real, I was going to say woman, I probably wouldn't go down very well, like a complete woman, might as well say it, and sort of drive back to the airfield again, and I'd fly up for say 10 minutes, just take it off, out, back, and I had to do that, you know, these little 10-minute spells, and slowly but surely it'd be 15 minutes and 20 minutes, half an hour, and very, very, very slowly it started to come back, and I started to feel confident about it again. I started to do extensive courses on formation flying, low-level aerobatics with the Harvard aeroplane, and we're sort of jumping the gun a bit here and going on too far perhaps, but it took a long time to come back, and when it did, it was great, and I've had no trouble since. But it did take a long time, but it took, as I say, it took several months for it to happen, and then when it did come, it was terrible. For the few months before that, it was just shortly after the accident, I had no trouble at all. I was as mad as ever.
Wasn't this the same airplane that you tried to fly around the world in the first time?
Yeah, it was called a Cessna Centurion, a Cessna T210L, a turbocharged Cessna Centurion. It's a six-seater single-engine airplane. I don't know if I went all through this on the round the world trip bit, but high-wing aeroplane, very fast, quite sleek, a very nice aeroplane. But I had an older model of it, which wasn't as successful as later models. A fuel system used to suffer from vaporization, like when it was taken off from Dubai, which I talked about earlier on another album. They sort of sorted out those problems, and the undercarriage not coming up properly, sorted out those problems. Yeah, but it was this airplane that the Indians took the bids. That's a very wide stop. Yeah.
what you told the world. Something is wrong. Something is
there yet another change of style on the I Assassin album?
I saw the I Assassin album more as a progression from the Dance album and a drastic change. I started to use fretless bass on Dance with Mick Kahn and a little bit of saxophone, like She's Got Claws and one or two of the other songs. And so when it came time for I Assassin, I thought that the Dance album had been along the right lines, but just far too strange. It's a really weird little album, you know, odd. Like, I thought ideas-wise it was all there, but the ideas without much form, like a bit too much free expression. And I thought with I Assassin, I wanted to harness all that and give it some more direction again. I wanted it to be more up-tempo, which was the intention of Dance, really, which is why I called it Dance, but it never turned out to be like that. I'd really got into fretless bass, as I said, and saxophone. And I'd met Pino, who was, the absolutely a brilliant bass player. I think one of the best in the world. And I went along those lines, really. So I started trying to make it much funkier, much more interesting. The arrangements wise with a jazz influence, stronger than on the Dance album. And so I didn't really. I think it ended up sounding like a fairly drastic change, but only because on one of them I got it right, and on one of them I didn't, really. And I think on the I Assassin album it really did all come together, very much.
Any favourite tracks bring to mind at all?
Yeah, This Is My House, I really like that one. I used to do that live quite a bit, and I'm not sure whether the fans really like that one, because it never seemed as though it went down very well. But personally it was one of my favourites on the album, and to do live, I used to really enjoy doing it live. I might risk it again, actually, that one, because I don't really know why. I love the mood of it. I think I really like. I think lyrically, it's a good one to do on stage because you can get a lot of atmosphere into it, and it's very good to light. You can get a lot of mood lighting on it, which I'm quite keen on. That sort of thing. What else? I thought White Boys New York was a pretty good little song, and We Take Me Shit to Bed, things like that. Dream of Siam, I like the intro on that one. I thought that was good. War Songs is probably one of my favourites. I thought in general I really did like the whole package now, but I think those couple of songs really stand out.
And how do you personally rate that album amongst all your albums that you've done?
Well, like we said, it didn't do very well. In fact, it was the worst of all, sounds wise. But I would rate it amongst my top 3 easily. At the moment, anyway, I don't know what I'm going to be writing in the future, whether it'll be better or not. But certainly at the moment, I'd rate it in the top 3. And the fact that it didn't do very well, I think would be more of a disappointment as time goes by than it was then. And like I said before, I didn't really know that it hadn't done very well at the time. I thought it was good. I thought the production on it was particularly good, and I was very proud of the production on it. I really did think I'd got it together well on that one, production-wise. I thought the players that I'd stumbled across, like Pino and Roger and that, were exceptional, and I was very lucky to find such players. And I thought that by pushing the fretless bass to the front in the way I had on that album, which was a style which caught on some years later and is now very popular, well, has been popular for the last year or two, I really thought I was starting something new again, like I did with the replicas, the electronic thing. Although it just didn't get recognised, or it just didn't catch on in time enough to be associated with me, which is a shame. I don't think anyone likes it to feel that they've done something new and not get any recognition for it, especially me, because I haven't such a bad time with the press over the years. I'm keen to try and find something like that again, which would get me some kind of credibility amongst the press. Whether that's worth anything or not, it would be nice just to read something nice every now and again.
Nothing's ever wrong, but nothing's ever quite like the stories and songs. Nothing is the same. Nothing ever changes, and nothing's ever quite like the pictures I've seen. Nothing's ever. No one's in the dark. No one's in the corner. No one's in the wardrobe just waiting about nothing's ever. Heroes always bleed, but heroes never cry. Heroes always get the best gun and then die. Nothing's ever this is impossible. Why still believe that great American smile?
We've spoken about your plane crashing, which turned into the local joke and then a national joke and ridicule. Now, do you mind if we move on now to a personal question, which is something else which people have ridiculed you for, and that is the hair transplant.
Yeah.
Now, do you mind talking about that?
No, I didn't get that much ridiculing about that, actually. One or two people tried. But I think that because I sort of said that I'd had it before anyone even found out about it, it took the wind out of their sails a bit, and they couldn't take the mickey out of me of something I already admitted to.
Right. But why did you have the hair transplant? Can I ask you that?
My hair fell out. Yeah, Mr. Vanity. Everyone says, oh, well, you had to have it done because you're in the music business, in the public eye. But I'd have had it done if I was a lorry driver or a
Would
dustman. Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't want to not have any hair. It's only at the front we're talking about, you know. I didn't sort of go like Yul Brynner or anything like that.
Well, a lot of people know that you've had the operation, but not many people, including myself, know exactly what that operation entails. Now, can you explain that to us? Is there a lot to it?
There's not a lot to it. You go along earlier on, sort of, sometime before you actually have the operation, they examine you and decide whether you're suitable, because not everybody's suitable. I mean, sometimes a hair, because what they basically do is take hair from one part of your head and put it into the bit where you haven't got any. It's a surgical operation. So they examine you to make sure it's all okay, and then on the actual day itself, they take you to like a small room. They cut your hair at the back, which is normally where they take it from, what they call the donor site. They cut it fairly short, but leave enough to cover up where the scars are going to be, because it does leave you quite badly scarred for a while. So they leave like a flap of hair that will lay over that, and then you go into the operating room itself. They lay you face down on this table, bed type thing, and you lay on like a V-shaped block, like a V-shaped, a bit like a guillotine, yeah. So you lay on that, and you have these like swabs, these absorbent pieces of material that you put in your hands, and you put those beside your face, sort of over your ears, and apparently that's to soak up the blood, but they don't tell you that. And so, and so what they do then? Oh, sorry, but when you're in that first room, by the way, when they're cutting your hair, they also draw on your front of your head where they're going to put the grafts, when they actually put them in. They draw it on, and then he just puts them in, like painting by numbers. Anyway, so you're in there and you're face down, you've got your swabs beside your face. And then what they do, they give you like a local anaesthetic in your head, so you're awake when it's going on, but they inject your head. And that's really one of the most painful parts of it, because I don't know if you've ever had injections in your head, but you know the sound when you put your finger into a polystyrene, it goes crack, and it goes as your finger goes in. That's just what it's like, but it like seems to echo through your whole head. It's really horrible. And there's loads of them. It seems like dozens and dozens. They're really painful.
There is a lot of pain, isn't there?
Yeah, on that part of it anyway. The injections, the anaesthetic when it goes in, I hated that bit. Especially the second time, because I had it done twice. I'd done it again a few years later. And then, so they anaesthetise your head, and then they get, it's a bit like a dentist drill. I didn't see it, I can just see what it sounded like. It sounded like a dentist drill. And it has like a circular saw on the end of it. And what they do is they drill into your head, and they take out like a tube of skin about 1/8 of an inch deep. And it's got about 10 or 15 hairs in it. And they take out the whole skin, surrounding the hair and its root and everything, and just take that out. And on the first time I had it done, I had 96 taken out. And the second time I had 110 taken out. And then then they drill it, and then they go along and they take it out and they put it in like a tray, like a solution stuff, and then they sew it up, so you end up with 96 stitches or whatever it is you've had done across the back of your head. See? And they keep saying, "Tell us if it hurts." And so you keep waiting for it to hurt. And I wish they wouldn't say that, because I would tell them if it hurt. They didn't have to ask me. Then they turn you over. They give you some more injections in the front, which again hurt quite a bit. And then they have a thing, you know the screwdrivers where you press it and it automatically turns it in. It's a bit like that, and again a circular saw on the end. And then they go to the marks on the front, like the little circles at the menstrual on the dots, and they do this thing with the screwdriver, and it goes ba-dum, 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 across your head. And they take out those tubes of skin, and I suppose they just throw them away. And then they get the bits of skin that's got the hair in them, and they stick them in like turf in a lawn. And they arrange it so all the hair grows in the right way, so it doesn't all go every which way. So it goes to your natural sort of shape of hair, growth of hair. And bandage it all up, and that's it really. And then they stick you in this room for a bit, give you something to eat, because you're a bit weird afterwards for a couple of hours, and then you go home. And then the first time I had it done, the most painful part of the whole thing, because the actual operation itself, to be really honest, doesn't hurt that much. The injections do. The operation itself doesn't hurt. It's just a really weird and unpleasant feeling, but not painful, really. But the bit afterwards, when you get home, what happens is the anaesthetic drains through your face, and so you all swell up. And I was doing the Assassin album when I had it done the first time, and I went into the studio and Pino was in there, and I was so badly disfigured that Pino didn't recognise me. That bad, yeah, and that's honest. That's not a silly story. That's genuinely the truth. Pino didn't recognise me, and he went out to the office and asked me, "Mum, who I was," because he wanted to know what happened to me. Because I could see my own eyebrows. I'd actually turned backwards. One eye was shut completely. My mouth was pulled out, so I couldn't talk properly. Half my nose was all shut down, and the face was all pulled out. And so, if you can imagine that kind of swelling, is now pulling all those stitches open at the back. And I didn't sleep for 4 days. I couldn't lay down because the back of your head is all puffed out where the stitches are. So you can't lay on it because you can imagine. So you end up trying to sleep with your head hanging off the side of the bed. It's really weird. And that was it.
Listen good, don't cry for me and don't cry anymore. Now just shut your mouth and this point of view belongs to me. Listen babe, say you got no one tonight. Listen babe, say you got no one. Same old smile that cracked 1,000 hearts within mine. Same old line, I read them book and I am now you have say you got no one tonight. Last night, say you got no one. I don't believe no concern on my face. What's it for? You dream of something like I dreamed of you. Last night, say you got no one tonight. Last night, say you got no one. Last night, say you got no one. Last night, say you got no one tonight.
Now that sounds a daft question, but would you recommend that operation to anyone?
I would. It sounds a lot gorier than it is, to be really honest about it. I mean, I actually went back and had it done a second time. I honestly don't believe I've got enough nerves to have it done a third time. But I went back and had it done again, what they call infilling, where you have a lobe more and they just fill in the gaps. You see, they can only put the transplants in, they have to have a certain amount of space in between them, or else the blood won't flow and they won't take and grow properly. And so, after you've had the first lot done, and they're all growing properly, you can then go back and have some more done, where they put the new ones in between those gaps, and it just makes it a little bit thicker. And so, yeah, I would recommend it, but only if you're really, really bothered about it. If you're not that worried about it, or you prefer a wig or something, then have that done.
Give it a miss.
Yeah, give it a miss.
But
yeah.
In your case, Gary, has it worked?
Mine? Yeah, I've been ever so lucky. Both mine worked really well. I think out of 100 and... What was it? I said I had 110, I said, so it'd be 206 actual individual grafts. I think only one or two haven't worked well. And they've still got hairs in them, which is like an 1/8 of an inch wide little bit of hair that hasn't got anything in it. It still takes about, I suppose, quarter of an hour or so of fiddling, or else you look a little bit like a doll, because instead of having normal hair, you have it in circular clumps, like little tubes of it.
Oh, so it's not one hair growing out of one of those, it's several hairs?
Yeah, each tube of skin has about 10 to 15 hairs in it, apparently. So they say. And they're actually counted. But that's... So unless you actually take a few minutes with it to get it, sort of looking right, it will look a bit strange. So if you go swimming, it might be a bit embarrassing, because as you come out and all your hair slip back, it will look a bit weird. Other people, like John Cleese has had it. Geoffrey Boycott looks like he's had one.
Elton John doesn't seem to have been very successful, though. I mean,
I think the trouble with Elton John, and I'm guessing a little bit here, and I think he's ever so brave because he's had so many done, and it must hurt him. The problem with him was he didn't have that much to take it from. Do you know what I mean? He has such an enormous area of none and a fairly small area of hair, and to try and to spread that over such a large area, it was sort of doomed to failure, really. I don't think he should have had it done. Probably, and the thing is, once you've had it done, you can't then change your mind and shave your head off, because you're so badly scarred underneath it. And I'm ever so bad disguised around the back. If I wear a hat, I have to be careful and not get the hair caught up because it's these big raw pieces of skin there. It's not very pleasant, really.
Do you feel self-confident now that you've had it done?
I don't know, because I had it done before it got bad enough for me to really be sort of getting self-conscious about it, I suppose.
Why were you so open about it? Why did you sort of openly admit that you had it done?
I think if I do anything that hurts, I don't mind people knowing about it at all. I really don't. Well, quite brave, actually. I wasn't embarrassed about having it done, because I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. You know, women are doing it all the time. Men are running around wearing makeup. Men are as vain, if not more so, than women. And I don't see any reason why it should have been a secret. I'm not bothered about it. I'm not bothered now that people know. If anything, when I tell people what's involved in it, they sort of look a little bit shocked by it. And it does take a little bit to go and have it done, because it is a fairly... I don't want to say that it's a really gore operation. I don't want to put people off from it, but because it, as I said before, it does sound worse than it is. But it is a surgical operation. You have to understand that. And there are more pleasant ways of spending a Saturday afternoon than having that done.
What was the attitude of the clinic? Were they grateful to you for having it done?
Yeah, apparently I was the first person that had ever actually owned up, if that's the right way of putting it, and said about it. And so they was ever so nice, actually. Mr. Pountney himself went round to see me mum. I'm not sure why he went to see me mum, but he did. And they did my second one free to say thank you.
Did they?
Yeah, which is ever so nice of them, really. And then Mr. Pountney come in and had a chat to us. They was ever so grateful. I didn't do it for that reason. I didn't think... I never really taken much notice before whether other people had admitted to it or not. I mean, I knew other people had it, and so I just presumed they must have admitted it. I think what happened is the press found out about it and then sort of told everybody. Which is a sort of sneaky, nasty thing to do, isn't it, really? Which is typical of them, I suppose. So, no, I'm not embarrassed about having it done. Not at all. And so I saw no reason to hide it whatsoever. And the other thing about it is, I think I said earlier, the reason that I don't think the press were able to really make fun of me about it is because I admitted it. And Pountney's clinic, where I had it done, actually then were running adverts with my picture from the Warrior stuff, because after I'd had it done, where it looked quite good, saying, you know, I'd had it done and come to our clinic and have yours done. And I've met a fan that's had it done.
Did you?
Since then. Yeah, I met a fan in Portsmouth that had it done because I'd had it done. Unfortunately, he had a little bit of trouble. They'd hit something at the back, and it had a big swelling of blood I'd take out. But he seemed happy with it, you know. I think you have to accept the fact that it's not going to give you what you had before, but it's going to give you the chance that with a little bit of fiddling about, you can look right. And look at me now. I can go out on stage, and you would never know I'd had it. I can go on television with a camera right in on you, and you would never know I'd had it done. And that's for a few minutes fiddling about with it, and just sort of being a little bit careful with it, that it looks sort of relatively natural.
The telephone haunts me like a picture of pain that I am there to She cries like I do. She cries like I do. It's my voice that says I never touched your heart. Lies and bones. She cries like I do. Too little blues. She cries like I do. Secrets of mine. She cries like I do. Like whistle bells do. She cries like I do. Here in the dark. It's like
What happens to your hair, Gary, after you've actually had the operation?
As I say, you get this big swelling at the back of your head. That takes some time to go down. That's the stitches. Those stitches slowly dissolve. And I used to help them and pull them out, which is silly because it actually doesn't help the scarring problem. But they irritate, you know. And when you're brushing your hair, they keep getting caught and hurting, so I like to get rid of them. The hair at the front is actually quite interesting. First of all, it all dies. Sort of panic sets in, but they warn you about it, you know, and it all comes out. You get these big tubular scabs. It's you know those things you get where you put the soap on the wall and it sucks on. Well, you look like that, and it feels like that. I could stick soap on my head. And that's it's not actually. And what it is, you know, like I suppose as it bleeds in a tubular shape, and so you get like a tubular scab come out of each one. I may eventually fall off or get knocked off or they're helped off, and all the hair that was there when it was transplanted, it comes out with it and it dies, and then you wait for a little bit, and then the roots sort of reactivate themselves as a transplant settles and sort of grows into itself again, into the new skin around it again, and they reactivate, and then it starts to grow. And at first it's very, very fine, like newborn baby's hair, very, very fine, and it's not really much use, you know, it's just a nuisance really. And then it slowly thickens up, and they reckon within about 18 months or so it's as thick as it'll be. So what they've done, they've taken hair from the back of your head and put it in the front, so now it's your own hair again, just growing in a different place. I found with mine in particular that the transplanted hair seems to grow quite a bit faster than the normal hair. Now I don't know why that is. I can guess that it's because it's not so crowded, or there's not so much hair around it. I don't honestly know why it is, but that definitely happens. I don't know whether that's normal or not. So when I used to bleach it, say on the Warriors tour, when it was bleached, I used to have tubular roots coming through within a day, and so you'd have to constantly bleach. So I've bleached it and done it blue since, and then it's still there. It's not any more delicate than what it was when it was at the back of my head. And all this stuff about losing your hair being because of dyeing it. I really don't believe that.
You don't?
No. Bleaching and messing about with your hair, it damages it, and it can break off and all drop out, but it doesn't make it stop growing forever. That's hereditary. And I have this on good authority, that's hereditary, and if you're going to go bald or whatever, or have a monk's bit, the hole at the back, all those different things, then it's going to happen. Nothing you can do. So I was very lucky, actually, because, I'm like the double of my dad. But my thumbnails, my nose, my feet, every single thing I've got is the same as my dad. It's like I'm not my own person. The only thing that I can't do that my dad can do is whistle. I can't whistle, and he's a really good whistler. I don't know why that should be. We've even got the same gaps between our toes,
You must sit there and study each other out.
Yeah, I want to see what I'm going to be like. Yeah. Well, it's quite handy, actually, having like another me to look at, see what I'll be like when I'm 50. Not bad. And then, so I could look at my dad and see what happened to his, and say, well, I'll be like that in so many years, so I know I'm going to have that bit left and that bit left. And so I had like a fairly sort of well-informed view of what I had to have done, which was very handy, actually. And it seems to be turning out that way as well.
And when you sort of all this sort of recovered and the hair started growing and that, could you comb it as you normally would, or was there that sort of danger of it popping out, or the fear of it popping out, coming out with the brush?
Yeah, well, early on, when you first have it done, you first start to wash it and to brush it. I was ever so nervous about that. I thought, what would you do if it fell out in the sink? It was always like a hedgehog. Well, it would be terrible, wouldn't it? But it doesn't. No, once it's in, it's like when you cut your finger and you have a little cut and it heals up. It never opens up again, does it?
That's right.
And this is the same as that. Once it's in, it's in. And I can get it now and pull it and tug it. And people go green. You see it, but it's quite alright. It doesn't do any harm to it at all. You do have to be a little bit careful of it for the first few weeks or so while it's actually growing and bedding in. And then after that, it says you can do what you like with it. You really can. Although having said that, I just can't help. I've always got that feeling there that I know it's been put in, and so I don't really mess around with it too much. But it is completely safe, and it's just a feeling that I don't like the feeling of pulling it about, because I still have that vision of it all popping out.
Are you ever aware when you go out publicly that people are sort of zooming in on your transplant? Are you aware of their eyes looking up?
No, nobody takes any notice of it, and most people, when you look at it, you can't even tell I've had one, because it's worked so well. And so people don't even think about it. And I think people that have read about it, perhaps, I don't know. I've never asked what they think, but nobody. I'm very rarely. Sometimes, but I'm very rarely aware of people looking at it or trying to see it. Sometimes, if I'm doing a television or something, and a makeup girl's coming along, and she's standing over me looking in at it, obviously being so close, she could probably tell something. So I just start talking about it, and if she's interested, I'll explain to her how it all worked and. I never try to hide it, and if anything, it gives you a talking point. It's a conversation piece. Yeah, and it's been quite handy. A lot of times when you sort of you're stuck with something to talk about in a makeup room, waiting to go on the telly or whatever, it's nice to be able to chat away about it. It passes the time. It's interesting for them as well, because a lot of makeup people are hairdressers, and they're quite interested in it, how it all works.
Don't wanna be no watermelon. Nick and to mouth resuscitation. There's only one with stimulation. Count it down and set ignition. Pull out all the stops and pull on a 7-Up. Pull out all the stops and pull on a 7-Up. Turn you off. Automatic, turn you out of all the static, make it sharp and make it clean. When you are oiling your machine, pull out all the stops and pull on a 7-Up. Pull out all the stops and pull on a 7-Up. Pull out all the stops and pull on a 7-Up, 7-Up.
Can you explain how you got involved with the 7-Up commercial?
Yeah, the 7-Up people, that make the drink. starting a new promotional campaign sometime in '82, and they got in touch with it's an American-based company. And they got in touch with an agency over here, and they said, "We want a 30-second tune, made by whoever's happening at the moment." And over here at that time, I was the happening thing at the moment, and so this agency got in touch with me, and I did 3 30-second jingles, if you like, for 7-Up. They supplied the lyrics. I just had to put some music to it and do whatever. So we did it in an hour or so one afternoon while we was making the Assassin album, and they sent it off to the Americans, and the Americans had never heard anything like this. See, what was happening in America at the time was punk. It only just got there, really, and so that's what they expected to get, some punk thing, because that's what they thought was happening. And so I didn't get the job, which is a shame, because it was £10,000 it was going to be for that. £10,000 for a couple of hours. It was going to be really good. I think advertising would be a nice thing to go into, because it's really interesting. You just little 30-second segments music just in and out, really good. But I was a bit disappointed that we didn't get it, because I would have enjoyed to have done more of that kind of work. I think it ended up being done by some American or Australian band. I can't really remember now, but it was just like heavy metal at the end of the day, like an American version of punk. Dreadful.
Walk through the room with a little more style. Forget the plastic kids that got to go smiles. Be sharp, be flash, no need to conform. Just put on something that it didn't ain't no. 7-Up, 7-Up, 'cause like a knife. 7-Up, 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 'cause like a knife. 7-Up. So make a move now, our difference is clear. Forget the novels, they just don't come near. They've got no number, the production line minds. You want an answer, write it up and you'll find. 7-Up, 7-Up, 'cause like a knife. 7-Up, 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 'cause like a knife. 7-Up, 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 'cause like a knife. 7-Up. Walk through the room with a little more style. Forget the plastic kids that cut to go smiles. Be sharp, be flash, no need to conform. Just put on something that it didn't ain't no. Pull out all the stops and pull on the 7-Up. Pull out all the stops and pull on the 7-Up. So make a move now, our difference is clear. Forget the novels, they just don't come near. They've got no number, the production line minds. You want an answer, write it up and you'll find. Pull out all the stops and pull on the 7-Up. Pull out all the stops and pull on the 7-Up. Pull out all the stops and pull on the 7-Up, 7-Up. We are not evil. We act with reason and heart. You are. We are not vicious. There's that rising. We're so much larger than life. Assassin, I am. Assassin, I am.
Now the next question, of course, is regarding this famous court case that people still remember going in for. Why were you arrested in the first place? Can you explain that to us?
I'd had a bad day, to be honest with it. I had one bloke try to run me off the road in my car. It was in an orange Volkswagen Beetle. And then I'd gone down to the aeroplane. Something had gone wrong with the aeroplane. While I was underneath that trying to fix it, and I was standing there with my girlfriend, who was fairly attractive as it happened, and some Skinners had gone past and started saying that I was an effing queer and all the rest of it, hanging out of this car. Oh, that's not very nice, is it? And so you're standing there with a girl anyway. And so I thought, I went home, got some equipment, went back to the aeroplane. And I can't remember what the other incident was, but something else happened of a similar nature. I think there were some blokes with cars at CB radios, and they actually tried to pin me in. I was talking to you on the radio, could see them. Yeah. And got away from them because I had a fairly fast car. And then I just thought, I've had enough of today. I think I'll give up today and go home. So I'll go and get a burger from this takeaway van. So off we went to this little takeaway van near London Airport. And I pulled up as a Ferrari Boxer, which is quite a nice car. Pulled up outside, it had this little rounders back, and I got out. Girlfriend went to get the burgers, and we used to go there regular. I knew the people in it and everything. And I'm just there, tapping around. I lost the ball, and the ball went over the back, and I didn't think nothing of it. I just sat there on the ground waiting for my burgers to come with the bat. I just wasn't even thinking about it. I saw a police car coming along, like a panda car. Stopped some blokes for them who were gypsies, and had to talk to them. One of them had a great big stick, which didn't stop them or take it off and just let them go. Then she went past and pulled into the lay-by, and I thought she's going to get a burger. It's a woman. And then she come up to where the Ferrari was, about 15 yards away, and pointed to me and beckoned me over. And I thought, that's a bit rude. But, there you go. So I went over. I just thought she wanted an autograph. I didn't think anything about it. That's what most people wanted. So I went over. And she said, what you got the bat for? I said, I've been playing rounders. Why? And she said, where's the ball? I said, I've lost it. She said, well, over there. And I said, yeah, I'm not going to go and get it. I mean, it's all in the nettles, and there's probably grass snakes, and I'm not going over there to get it. And she started saying that's an offensive weapon. And it was just one of those things. It had been a real bad day. I'd had aggravation all day long from the very people that I consider you should be out arresting and hassling. People trying to drive you off the road and things like that. And unfortunately, for the first time in my life with the police, I lost my temper. Because I just thought it was stupid. There was a £50,000 car. What was I going to do? Was I going to mug it and make a discreet getaway in a Ferrari with GN4 written on the back of it? What was she thinking of? It was so stupid. She said, I'm going to arrest you. So I said, well, we'll do it then. As soon as you do that, at least we can go somewhere and sort it out, because this is stupid. Really stupid. And so she did. She arrested me. And she wouldn't let me take my own car. I had to go in another police car that she called for. We went off to the police station. I said, I don't want you touching a Ferrari. It's £500 for a clutch. And if you don't know how to drive it, you'll take one out in 10 minutes, because I did. When the first day I bought it, I took a clutch out on the first drive with it, because you have to learn how to drive, and they're different to most cars. They're very, very powerful machines. And I said, I don't want you driving it, leave it there, I'll get someone to pick it up. And they insisted on taking the keys. It turns out that to do 2 miles, the man in the burger van noted what time it left, and by the time it arrived at the police station, my dad had got there and noticed what time it arrived, and it took them more than 30 minutes. They just went for a jolly around in it, in my car. Bloody cheap. It really annoyed me. They wouldn't let the girlfriend make a phone call from the police station. You got a girl dressed in afternoon clothing, like summer clothing, short skirt and the rest of it, now night time, because they kept us there for hours, right? Made her go out at night on her own with no money to some local pub or whatever and make a phone call. They wouldn't let her make one. Now this is our own police. It shattered me. It really did. I just honestly didn't believe that. I've always been still am, honestly, really pro-police. And I thought all these talks that I used to hear, the colour blokes saying, I got beaten up in this, I used to think it was absolute bollocks and didn't believe none of it. But I really do question a lot of that now. They fingerprinted me. Almost everyone in there came in for a whole collection of autographs, which I give them. Right? When it got to court, they all denied it. No, they all said we didn't even know who he was. They denied the thing about the girlfriend. They said that she wanted to go, and she bloody never. She didn't, has it? Complete lie. Just being awkward with her.
This new impression.
They denied taking the car for a ride, and we know that they did because we know what time they arrived. Like I said, we know what time they left and what time they arrived. I had to have mug shots taken, fingerprints, the whole turn out my pockets, all that sort of stuff, the whole bit. You know, it was ever so disappointing. You know, I was disappointed that they would do that.
Now, you were arrested a second time, weren't you?
Yeah, well, what happened was that they gave me a date that I had to go to court on. My lawyer applied for a postponement of it, wrote to me, said I didn't have to go. But what he didn't tell me was that, what he didn't realise was, I think, that they didn't grant it. And so on the day, he turned up, and the prosecution turned and all the rest of it. And he simply turned up because he thought it was going to be the formality where he goes along and they give another date. And I wasn't there, you know, because he told me not to be there. So he explained to them what had happened and said that it was his fault, and he apologised for the rest of it. And the prosecution said that I was behaving in a cavalier attitude towards British justice and asked for another bonding from Bow. And the man said, but I just told you, I've told him not to come. And he wouldn't have it, so I got arrested again.
Where were you this time, at home?
I was here, I was working in the studio. I hadn't gone nowhere. I was told not to go, so I come to work. Simple as that. So I had to go down to the police station, where a policeman come out, was very embarrassed, and said, you know what, I've got to now officially arrest you a second time for this particular charge.
What happened when you got to court?
Yeah, well, I only went to court the once, and they did both charges at the time. They threw out the charge absconding from bail, and that was dismissed. Two policemen, and the policeman that arrested me stood up in court, and they all more or less gave different stories. She said that when she drove past, I tried to hide the rounder's bat up my sleeve, and that's what made her suspicious. But then she later admitted that I had a short-sleeved T-shirt on. She said the Ferrari was black and it was blue. She said, I couldn't be sure of the colour because it was getting dark. And he said dark enough to notice that he was hiding a rounder's bat up his arm. And that was and it wasn't dark, it was rubbish. It was dark by the time I got to the police station later on. A few other bits and pieces. They denied the thing about the girlfriend not being able to use her phone. They denied knowing who I was and asking for autographs. One man said that I couldn't have been playing rounders because he'd been there on Saturday at 6 o'clock buying his daughter a hot dog the Saturday previously, and it was overgrown with nettles. Now, they don't do hot dogs, they only do hamburgers. It's a charcoal grill place. And they don't open, at that time, they didn't open until 9. Anyway, so he was obviously talking out of his backside. Then the other policeman come in and said I couldn't have been playing rounders there because it was covered in bricks and broken glass. And the man said, well, you just said it's covered in nettles. How did you see the bricks and broken glass if it's covered in nettles? They're supposed to be waist high, these nettles. And so, I was amazed if they're going to go in and try and set somebody up, they didn't get their stories together. Because they didn't. They all told a completely different story. There was a lot more things than that were going on. The man from the hamburger van came in and they proved that they'd been for joyride in the car. For example, they proved that because he said under oath they left at this time, and we knew what time it had arrived. Lots and lots of things went on like that, and that eventually was what they called dismissed.
Did all this shake your faith in the police?
Yeah, ever so much. It really did.
What about today? Are you anti-police still, or have you got over it
No,
now?
well, I didn't become anti-police because of that. Because there was the policeman that took me to the station when I actually got arrested. The bloke come out was really good, and he was saying, don't lose your temper, don't do this, and he was giving me a lot of advice, which is very, very useful. in the few minutes it took to get there. And by the time I got there, I was listening to him. I thought, sort of, shut up, and because they'll beat you every time. There was another policeman in the court who was really good. There was a lot of people there who were policemen who were actually on my side and saying that it was silly, and this woman had done it before and they knew all about her and that sort of stuff.
And what's your opinion of the police today?
Well, I'm not 100%. I don't 100% believe them anymore the way I used to. So if now I hear somebody said that they were beaten up in the cells or whatever, or a Hell's Angel got beaten to death, but it wasn't the police's fault, I'm not quite so sure anymore. The other thing that happened at the court case, I was advised by my own barrister, even though we'd won it, to pay my own costs, which was several £1,000s, because if I didn't, then it might not be to my advantage, not to get the police to pay the costs. And that's terrible, isn't it? That's
shocking.
All the aggravation and rubbish that they put you through, and you're not even allowed to ask the money back, which is quite rightfully yours. And they won't even compensate you for the time, just your proper cost that the barrister's costing. I think it's terrible, but that's what we did. We agreed not to do it, to show good faith with the police, which was probably whether it's right or wrong, it's probably a sensible thing to do. I rate the police. I think we've got a very, very good police force, but like any organisation, especially one that's so large, you get your odd ones in it. You can't avoid that, I suppose.
It's incredible that all this was the result of a baseball bat in a labour...
Rounders?
A rounder's bat.
18 inches long, little rounder's bat. For the teeth marks, because our dogs used to chew it. Yeah, silly, isn't it? So what I did after that was, because I still used to sort of take it with me, because I used to like it, but I always made sure I had about 4 or 5 balls in the glove box.
That's right.
So I always had a load there,
right,
just in case they wanted to have another go at me about it. Funnily enough, I was driving in the Corvette a little while after that, and I got pulled up for one of these random checks where they inspect your car, the brakes and everything, and I got out and I had a big baseball bat and it fell out the door. Clunk. Yeah, but he didn't say a word. No, it's the same area too, it's about 100 yards away from
They
it.
didn't. After the first
No,
time.
probably not.
We'll wait a lifetime for you. I've never felt good. I've never felt bad. I've never felt much at all. Assassin, I am. Assassin, I am. There's nothing personal. Just read the papers. That's reality.
Now, can we talk now about your tax exile visit to, I think it's the States, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the States, Canada and Jersey.
Why did you become a tax exile?
Well, I suddenly got this huge tax bill come in, and I was liable for it. And at that particular time, I'd just done the round the world flight, and I didn't have enough money. Simple as that. I can't honestly remember what the figure was. It's something they wanted 180,000, and I just paid about 150, something like that, on the round the world flight, and I just didn't have £180,000 sitting there. It's a lot of money just sitting around. And so I didn't go because I didn't want to pay it. I went because I didn't have it. You know, so it's slightly different to what maybe people think. And I was a little bit sad about that because I didn't want to go away for a year. You know, you leave your family and everything for you. And I really love the country. But as it turned out, I really enjoyed America. I went to America initially.
Why did you go to America?
Well, when I'd been touring all around the world, I've been to lots and lots of places that I liked. But the one that had, for me anyway, a really special atmosphere was Los Angeles. And I loved it. I loved the climate. I thought the people were great. You know, over here, if you drive around in a nice car, you run the risk of people scratching it, kicking it. Now, you daren't stop in the wrong part of town or else they'll have your wheels off. That sort of thing. You generally get a lot of abuse from people that are probably jealous of it. Well, you don't get that over there. You go along in a nice car. You go to a real hard area. And people are coming up to you saying, yeah, nice car. Yeah, things like that. It's almost like everything that's a sign of success is welcomed over there because it's sort of proof of the American dream that you can make it if you work at it or whatever. America's a land of opportunity, and they all seem to be in on that. Not every single person, obviously, but as a general sort of rule, that's the way it seems to be over there. And I just found it really pleasant. There was a feeling of drive and success and of money, and if anything was going to happen, it was going to happen there. Lots of pretty people. You know, it's a very warm place. And lots of semi-naked wenches running around. It was great. I loved it.
Is that where you picked up your interest in guns?
No, I'd always had an interest in guns, but over there, because I lived there for so long, I was there for about 7 months. I became eligible to buy them, my own guns. So I bought a couple of assault rifles. One of them a carbine, a short version, which is it's like the American M16 is like the army gun, you know, the machine gun they used. And the one I got was called an AR-15, which is the civilian version, if you like. It's only semi-automatic. What that means is every time you fire the thing, it will eject the shell that you've just fired, load a new one, but it won't automatically just keep going. You have to pull the trigger for every time you fire, but it will self-load itself. It's got an SLR, self-loading rifle. So as far as you can pull the triggers, it's as far as it'll go. And it was a deadly machine. You could put 30 rounds in it, big curved magazine at the bottom. You just go bang, 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 bang. This thing in it, brilliant. And I bought a Beretta automatic pistol. I had 14. I used to take it around with me. It was great. It was really good. And I had I went into a shop and I said, I want the shotgun that Steve McQueen had in The Getaway, the one that he blew up the police car with. I want one of them. So they said, oh yeah, I know what you mean. He got me out this thing called an Ithaca M37, which I don't think is the gun, because I saw the film recently and it doesn't look like mine. It's a bit sneaky, isn't it? And so I bought that as well. I actually bought that for my dad. And it was great. I used to go out to the ranges and practice not every day, but sort of several times a week. And I loved it. A gun is only a bad machine if you point it at somebody and kill them. It's not a bad machine if you just use it for target shooting or for fun or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with a gun. There's nothing wrong with any machine. It's a man behind it. Always, no matter what it is, be it a knife, a gun or an atom bomb.
How do you feel about using guns for shooting animals?
I don't believe in doing anything to animals. You know, it sounds a bit silly this, but I always buy free-range eggs. You know? I don't like the taking of animals for anything at all. I don't like animal experiments, although I think the animal live people have got it a bit wrong. I don't think what they do is sensible. I don't like zoos really. I think it's sad. I like safari parks. To me, they seem to be sort of acceptable, but still not ideal. And I don't like these killer whales and dolphins being kept in captivity and doing tricks. To me, it's sort of undignified, and lions in cages. I don't like it.
The reason why I asked you that question was because a lot of people think that if somebody's interested in guns, then they're naturally interested in hunting. That's the connection there.
Yeah, no, and see, there's no connection at all. A gun is simply a machine. That's like saying if you're interested in cars, you're automatically interested in racing. And while I actually am, that it doesn't necessarily apply. I know loads of people that are into cars, but they're not particularly interested in racing cars. You know, because there's an association with them doesn't automatically mean that you're interested in that particular part of it. It's like music. I mean, I'm interested in electronics. I'm not particularly interested in opera, but it's all music. And the one doesn't necessarily automatically mean that you're into all sides of it. But I don't like I couldn't imagine. I mean, I've never even shot a bird with an air pistol or a catapult, nothing like that. I don't approve of it at all. I don't approve of hunting with guns. I think it's terrible.
When Top of the Pops came out to you in the States, Gary, for the making of a video for White Boys and Heroes, one newspaper did a full-page article accusing you of glorifying mercenaries and corrupting the youth of Britain. What comments do you make on that statement?
The video, the song, was about an actor. The first line is, what was it, we're in the movies or something like that. And it was about actors that play hard characters or different kinds of characters. And so when I did the video with the Top of the Pops people, it was I was being an actor, you know. So I had the gun, I would go in the Jeep, and I was supposed to be driving home to my big actor's house, which it was in Hollywood Hills. And basically, I just assumed people knew it was in Hollywood Hills, and the connection to me was there, but they probably didn't come across that well in the video. So then the video got back to the house, and there's a lovely looking girl there, and some more guns, and all that sort of thing, all the trappings of wealth were there, you know. And I think I can understand why the man mistook it for being what he did, but to do such a big article on it and saying that I was glorifying mercenaries and corrupting the youth of Britain, I thought it was a little bit strong. But for one phone call, we could have found out exactly what it was about. To be honest about it, an article like that does you enormous good, because people love the rock and roll rebel image. If they think you're doing something a little bit outrageous, they like to be involved in it, or like to be a part of it. And those sort of articles are they're worth their weight in gold. Because generally, I'm a little bit straight. Do you know what I mean? I'm a little bit you know, I don't drink and smoke, all those things that people know about, and I've got the close family connection. I'm so untypical. I'm not your rock and roll rebel. But getting those kind of articles is ever so handy for me. Like getting arrested was really handy for me.
But not premeditated.
Well, the video.
Well, no, I mean these comments.
Getting arrested wasn't that much. No. I had no idea that it could be taken away. I didn't. As I was making it with the Top of the Pops people, I didn't see it being taken away. So all of the shots, like with the gun, we had the shimmering heat and me walking up at the desert, a la Clint Eastwood, and things like that, and pushing people into swimming pools and being very arrogant all over the place. It was all done because I was an actor, and I didn't see it as being taken in any other way. But you often do that. You often, when you are making something, you tend to see it as the way you see it, and you become a little bit blinded to possible flaws in how it can be seen. You know, but then again, that's you know, Top of the Pops, one of the strangest people for suddenly banning these. I did a video for Wheel Glass. So I was smashing up television sets with a sledgehammer, and they blanked them out because they said it would encourage children to smash their own television sets or something. No, I don't honestly see that. I can't imagine, because somebody likes a particular record, and I smashed a television set with a sledgehammer on a video, that they're going to pick up a sledgehammer and smash their television set in their home. I can't believe people are that guided or that stupid. I just don't. I give Pete a little bit more credit than that, maybe. But anyway, so that's what Top of the Pops were like. And so when they didn't see any of these things, they didn't mind the gun being in it, which is a real gun being in it. I was ever so surprised when this man came out with his particular article. And I did get to see that article. I mean, a lot of them I don't get to see. But I actually saw that one. I thought it was very, very silly.
I think the Tube visited you once and Top of the Pops twice. Were you flattered that they should come out and visit Gary Newman?
Well, Top of the Pops especially. I mean, the Tube sort of do it fairly... I don't know about often, because I don't watch it that much, but I think they do that sort of thing a bit more on Top of the Pops as. And for Top of the Pops to come out twice, yeah, I was so flattered. That was great. And there was nice people too, and they actually did very good videos, as good as a promo video, really. When you spend a lot of money on it, I thought they did very well. And that was good. One of them we did in New York, hanging at the back of a car. We saw a mugging when we was doing that one. What was that for? We Take Mystery to Bed, I think it was. And we was driving along one street, and this woman screamed, and this big coloured guy was launching off down the street with this woman's necklace in her hand. And if I'd have been quick, we could have got him. We'd have got tremendous press out of that, because there's loads of us in the car. About 6 of us in the car. I could have got this bloke. And I didn't think of it. I was so amazed by this. And we was also there when the Falklands business was going on. So we had a lot of aggravation, especially around Times Square, because a lot of South American people owned the shops. And as soon as we walked in and they found out we were English, they was very anti. Pino nearly had a couple of fights.
Is it true you drove with the helm with a Union Jack on the car?
Yeah, well, that was in Los Angeles. Yeah. Well, they were driving around their bloody Malvinas flags. So I bought a model of a Harrier and put it in my window. and a badge that said Empire Strikes Back written on it. The Empire Strikes Back, and I had my Union Jack flag. And I had a few running battles with Argentine supporters on the freeway.
So good old patriotic Gary in the States.
The trouble was, I felt so out of it. So I was over there and I couldn't come back, and it was all going on. And there's nothing that I could do. I was going to write to the Ministry of Defence and say, if you want to use my aeroplane, you're quite welcome if it could be of any use to you. They've got millions, I suppose, but I just didn't think I couldn't think what to do to help, and I really wanted to help. And I really did feel out of it, although the Americans are great, they were so behind us. I don't know what people over here think about it. But 99% of them were absolutely behind us. When we won, when the Argentines surrendered, we was in a picture house watching Tron, the Walt Disney film Tron, and they come in and told us, all the people outside, the usherettes and that, were listening to it on the radio, and they'd heard us going in and knew we were English. And then they come in and told us, the Argentines had just surrendered. And they were more pleased than we were. It was all clapping. It was great. It was ever so nice, because I don't know what other people think, but to have somebody with the might and power of America sort of friendly, I value that very much.
When and why did you decide to do a club tour of America in that particular year?
It was sort of really, more or less, as soon as I got out there, I suppose. I don't know why, but particularly because I wasn't... When I'd given up to it, I really had given it up, and I really did think that would be the end of it. In 1981. And it had been about a year since then. And I think one of the reasons I know was I was very pleased with people, like with Pino's playing, for example. I thought that was great, and I thought all of a sudden I had material that was much more suited to being live and stuff before, much more up-tempo and dancey, and I thought the songs were much better and classier. A lot of people have said I'd blown it in America because I said I was going to stop touring, and the record sales had slumped. I was aware of that, and you was going to be out there for a long time. I was growing up after the Round the World trip, especially. I'd grown up an awful lot, and I think all those things together, and constantly being advised by me dad and a few other people that it would be a good idea to do it, I decided to do a small tour of America, just to give it a try, a very low key sort of level, just to find out if I changed or not. You know what I mean?
Did Miles Copeland manage you?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, sort of a little bit tricky, really. He sort of managed us and didn't. He put one of his staff in charge of us, management-wise. He was supposed to be running around sorting things out for us and getting it all together. I didn't do that much, actually. Miles Copeland has sort of come in and out of our situation 3 or 4 times, and every time it's been a little bit of a washout, really. Nothing gets him, man. I just think he gets into things on a whim, and then gets interested in something else and forgets what he was interested in the day before. Simple as that. He's been backwards and forwards, you know, as I say, several times talking about managing us. At that time, he was involved with us. One of his brother's companies did the promotion for that small tour. Miles' own company did the management for that tour. Still through my dad, mind you. My dad was still managing me, and directly, and the Miles Copeland organisation was overseeing the whole thing. So yeah, he was involved.
What musicians did you use?
Pino, Palladino, who, as I said, is now with Paul Young. Roger Mason, don't know who he's with now. Chris Slade on drums. My brother, that was his first tour on keyboards. It was really good. He was like the backbone of it, really, because the others all seemed to get a little bit temperamental and strange. Chris Slade actually played quite badly one night, and I told him about it, and he thumped me. I've never had that. Yeah, I never had that with Russell and the rest of them, and Chris and that. You know, tremendously good relations, you know, during the tour. Who else? Rob Dean, he used to be with Japan, was with us. That was it, I think.
What sort of gigs did you play?
We did a couple of concert venues, one in Los Angeles, and then went down sort of through Texas. Now, mainly doing clubs, but a club in America is different over here, though. Like 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 seater places, their clubs. So we was doing those, really. And then off to the East Coast, and then did some stuff around there. We did a gig on a riverboat in New Orleans. You know these big old paddle steamers from like Wild West days? We did a gig on one of those. You get on it, and you start your gig, and the thing casts off and paddles up the Mississippi, and then paddles back and docks more or less at the time you're going to be finishing, and we'll get off. It was really good. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Then we got thrown off. This big woman comes and said, "Get off," in an American accent. I said, "Well, I'm the band." I said, "I don't kill you, I want to go home." She said, "Oh, baby." She sent us away. I must be honest, I really did enjoy that tour. That was a turning point when I realised it. I realised that I'd grown up a little bit, and there was more to it than what I'd thought before. And what a difference it made when you just relaxed about it.
American tour, were there any sort of particular incidents that you can recall?
There was 2 or 3, yeah. There was we was going from Denver. We done a show in Denver, Dynasty fan, was heading off. What we'd done, we'd rented a giant camper, big American. It was a brilliant machine, a big American camper. We was going to do the tour in that, and we had another camper for the crew. They were touring around, but they wasn't with us at this time. They were sort of a bit behind us, bringing their gear along, and some trucks and that, that sort of business. And we was going along, been going for a long while. I was asleep. It was very cold, lots of snow around, and we went off this off the main freeway. Just, I think we was going to get some fuel, or to stop for some reason or another, and that bloody thing caught fire. And up it went, all around the engine. There's a fuel leak, and it had gone to the hot engine and caught fire. And I'd bought a fire extinguisher, much to the amusement of everybody else who said I was stupid. I really got a thing about fire extinguishers. I've got one in all the cars, in almost every room at home. Everywhere I go, I've got a fire extinguisher. Got one in the plane. I've always had them. And there I was in this camper, and I had my own little personal fire extinguisher that I bought from my flat where I lived. And it was great. I mean, it worked, it started to put the fire out. My dad was very brave, and he crawled right underneath the camper up into the engine compartment where it was all burning. There's a big 30-gallon fuel tank at the front, right next to this, with this fire extinguisher. He was trying to put it out, because all our gear was on it, everything was on it, like clothes-wise, and trying to save it. And I had been asleep in a warm camper, and outside it was about sort of, I don't know, -1 or 2. It was very cold, but not ridiculously so. And I went running up the street, because there was a petrol garage nearby, and I thought, well, I'm bound to have a fire extinguisher next, so my one wasn't going to last very long. Have you ever done that? Got up out of a nice warm bed, and suddenly burst into action. It's freezing cold, and the air was getting in my lungs. I was going to die. I felt like I was frozen from the inside outward. And I went to this garage, and can you believe they didn't have one? Didn't have a fire extinguisher in this garage. And there's a petrol tanker in there who was delivering. I went running over to him and said, can you see the camper? It's burning. Can I have a fire extinguisher? I could hardly breathe. And he wouldn't let me have his good one. He'd give me his spare one. And he had to unlock this compartment. I couldn't believe it. All this fuss. But anyway, so I got this spare fire extinguisher, and but that was the end of that camper. Actually, it had to be towed away, and we couldn't use it anymore. It burnt the engine out. The fire brigade arrived fairly quickly, but it was, my dad had already put it out by then. Dad was great, actually, very brave. And then we hired some cars, and we drove for the next few days to other gigs. And then we got back into the big, sleeper type buses, like big greyhounds, with the bands travelling over there, which was great. I was pleased to get back into those, actually, because then you've got another driver, because we were doing all our own driving before that. And it's hard now. You're driving all day, gigging all night, not getting much sleep, and then you're up and driving. And over there, it's like you're talking about 500 miles at least a day. Normally a lot more than that. And it's quite hard. And my dad was doing most of the driving. I was a bit worried about him. But what else happened? Oh yeah, I think it was in Pittsburgh. We was in a hotel, and these big tall blocks that they have, like Terra Inferno type things, where the fire alarm went off. And that, I've never been in a hotel fire before. Actually, it wasn't actually on fire, but all the alarms went off, and we thought it was, but it was some kids had set it off. And I was on the phone to whoever the girlfriend was at the time, and this thing went off, and the phone went down, and I rushed out. I was a bit worried about me mum, and we all went down. It actually started off with just like it went off briefly, and then it stopped, and I sort of looked out the room, and everyone was sort of like milling around. Nobody was quite sure what was going on. And then we actually heard it come on again, but on another floor, not on our floor. And I didn't know that you had alarms for individual floors. And I thought, I don't like this, And all of some of the crew were out, and I said, "Come, we really should be getting going." Or they said we should be getting going. Everyone was saying we should be doing something. And Roger and Rob, they were sharing a room, and they come out, and they wasn't interested at all. I just went back inside. Typical. And I got my mum and my dad, and we all ran off. And as we was going down, so then it went off properly, and it was really, really noisy, ever so frightening, because it was all echoing. We're running off down the stairs, and I didn't think my mum was running fast enough, so I was trying to pick her up and carry her, and she was telling me to leave her alone. Oh, come on. And I felt a little bit sad, actually, because when we got down the bottom, there was a little old lady who was really frightened and scared. It's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, it was cold. That's not a good trick, is it? Maybe I'm getting old, but I thought that was stupid.
It's not funny, is it?
No. And the only other thing that happened really of note, that we had a tour manager, who was an English bloke actually, who buggered off with the money at the end of it all. Took a lot of money and disappeared. We had one show left to do and no money. He took the float, the lot. It was a little bit awkward, you know, because you got things to pay for, tickets to buy, that sort of stuff, and he disappeared with the lot. Not that many things went wrong on that, actually. It wasn't a particularly big stage show, because it was only a club thing. There wasn't that many lighting breakdowns or anything like that. It was, on that score, although I thought the crew were pretty dreadful and their attitude was awful, it was a mixture of Americans and English blokes. Some of the Americans were great, but I'm afraid the English blokes I had in the crew were really poor. Not very good at all. Very unprofessional. But in general, it was a fairly sort of well-run tour.
During this period, Gary, the Newman album and the video was released. Did you know about it, and did you approve of it?
I knew it was coming out, yeah. I'd spoken to Martin about it. I think the album itself and the whole idea of it's really good, although I didn't particularly like the cover of the Newman album.
What was wrong with it?
I just didn't think it was very good. I just thought it looked like one of those cheap K-Tel music for pleasure £2.50 jobs. That's what it looked like. It's partly my fault. I mean, I tried to explain to Martin what I wanted. I think it was Martin at Beggars. I tried to explain to him what I wanted for the cover over the phone when I was in America by this time. And obviously, you know, it's not that easy to do that kind of thing. So I can't really. It wasn't anyone's fault that it wasn't very good. It was just you know, their communications weren't quite happening there really. Although I think that the songs that were on it, you know, were the right songs. The video itself, I was a bit disappointed about the video because I thought it was so stupid. Instead of showing all the video, they would chop off the beginning and end with some footage that they got from the Around the World flight, I think it was, and bits and bobs like that. You know, the whole point of a compilation video, you have to show the videos. And if you're going to have little bits in between, little filler type bits, and all well and good, it's more for people to look at, more value for money. I suspect that in some ways it's to pad it out, which I'm not particularly keen on. No, I think overall, at the end of the day, I was less than happy with it.
you go after that to?
I had to go up to Canada for a bit, but I actually went up there, I think about a month before it started. I had to do 6 weeks in Canada, to be exact. I came back, did the tour in America, and then I went from there to Jersey, the Channel Islands. The flight going over, I went, after the tour finished, I went to New York and stayed there for a day. And because I had to be out of New York on a particular day, or else I was liable for tax over there. And I got to the airport, and I had to be out like by midnight, because that was the deadline. The plane was due to take off about 9 o'clock, and it got delayed. Didn't get in it till about 10:30. And it didn't actually leave till 11. Then there was a hold up on the runway because a lot of stuff was being diverted. I think we took off about 10 to 12. It was and it was rotten. It was on its way to Israel. I'm not really a religious person, and we had all the Orthodox Jews going to Israel down one side. You ever been on a jumbo jet? Despite their size, they're very cramped. They really cram the seats in. And if you're ever down the back, it's the worst place in the world because you're right by the back end toilets. Your tourist class, economy class toilets. You're a long, long way behind the C or G of the airplane, which means that if there's any turbulence, the back of the airplane fish towers around, and you really pick it all up there. The best place is to be on top of the wing. Don't get much movement there. So I'm right down the back. I've got the Orthodox Jews down one side who are praying the whole time. There was a lot of Indian people in the middle of it, and they have a lot of children, and they was climbing over the seats and looking at you and dribbling, and no control on them. And I'm all on my own. Didn't have no one for company. It was about an 8-hour flight. This one was particular flight, 7 hours. That's right. And then down the other side, I had the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Yeah, before he was the famous Reverend Jesse Jackson, and he kept trying to convert me. He's like, "Have you seen the light?" Well, I didn't know what he meant by that. Have I seen the light? And I was trying to convert everybody, actually. So imagine this, you got Jesse Jackson, the Indian kids, and you got your Orthodox Jews down one side, and you got a never-ending row of people with full bladders walking past you, and a really smelly toilet about 2 feet behind your head for 7 or 8 hours. And then we get to Paris, and Paris is fog-bound, so we have to go to this little place nearby. They wouldn't let us off the plane because they didn't have customs there, so we wanted to sit on the plane for another couple of hours. Like this. And I don't like airliner food much because they're always trying to make it too flash. And they put all these sauces in it, which I don't like. So I'm starving. And eventually we get into Paris, and that was a really rotten journey, though. Anyway, that was the end. That was that. Then we went into Jersey after that.
What did you do whilst you was in Jersey? You was there for about a year, weren't you?
No, I was only there for 5 months in Jersey, that was all.
What did you do in that 5 months?
Mainly flying. I did a thing called a night rating, which means you're allowed to fly at night, more or less. I did a tail wheel conversion, which means you fly airplanes with the little wheels at the back, because they're a little bit trickier than tricycle carriage airplanes. Did an aerobatics course. And a big thing I did there was called an IMC rating, which is an Instrument Meteorological Conditions rating. For multi-engine airplanes, with 2, 3 and 4 engines. And what that means is you're allowed to fly a multi-engine airplane with passengers in bad weather. So you can take off when it's raining and low cloud and go off hundreds of miles and land the other end, using all the instrument landing systems and that sort of business, without ever seeing the ground, apart from the very, very, very beginning of it and the very end of it. And I did one of those. In fact, the slight brag, I was the second person to ever pass a written exam first time, because it's quite hard at that club anyway, at that time. I was really pleased with it. Only just so, only because I argued. They said I got some things wrong, and I said, well, the question's ambiguous, it could be anything. And I sort of scraped in 1 or 2% spare. Got it there. And I did that. Oh, and I wrote the Warriors album.
Here in my heart, so long for
from the house. Is that true?
Yeah, well, this woman, I did a radio thing when I was over there, and I said, you know, I was staying in a hotel, and I got a phone call from a lady saying I could have some rooms in her house. They'd like an extension. I said, oh, thank you very much. It's very handy. I had an electric piano, a synthesizer, a drum machine, a low amplifier. That's what I was writing. I wrote the whole Warriors album, and it's an electric piano and drum machine, the whole thing, and just recorded it onto a cassette, you know. And I went into this place, and she was such a strange lady. She wouldn't, in the middle of winter, we wasn't allowed to have the fire on because it used up too much electricity. And I said, but I'm paying you rent for this. That's what it's for. Yes. And she said, oh, you can't have all those keyboards on. They use up far too much electricity. I said they're on for about an hour or two a day. And if you know anything about it, these things actually use up virtually none. And I went into her house once, and it was like Blackpool Illuminations. Every single room was lit up. It was like an oven. She had the fridge and the freezer all open. She had a dishwasher going, a washing machine going, a tumble dryer going. There was about 2 or 3 tellies on in different rooms where kids were running around. There's a record player that wasn't working but was on. And she was moaning at me for one electric fire in one room. It was like an icebox where I was living. The rotten kids would keep bringing friends home who kept like coming in through the adjoining door, which was supposed to be locked, and looking in the bedroom to see where I was working. And eventually she threw me out for using up too much electricity. And at once my girlfriend we was just going out. She got to the door, put her shoes on at the door, and the lady knocked on it and really had a go at her for wearing high-heeled shoes and ruining her floor. You know, stupid little things like that. Wasn't allowed to have a roast dinner because it used up too much electricity using the oven. Stupid. Horrible woman.
What was your general attitude towards Jersey as a country, I suppose you call it?
Oh, it's lovely. It's very, very... The trouble was, when I was there, I sort of was suffering from a Los Angeles, I don't know, reaction. Because I've been in Los Angeles, it was beautiful, warm people, everyone was really friendly. I could go out, there's massive amusement parks, like hundreds and hundreds of acres of amusement parks, because nobody really knows me there. I was going out every night. It was really lovely. It was nice. I just done a decent tour. It had gone really well. So I was all sort of pumped up, if you know what I mean, and excited about things. And I went to Jersey in the winter, where it really is a very, very quiet place in the winter. And I just sort of suffered a little bit from a reaction to that, and I just found it very, very boring while I was there. Sadly, because I've been back since, and it really is one of the prettiest places that you could go to. Unfortunately, when I did go back a few years later, somebody tried to stab me in a restaurant, which was unfortunate, and didn't help me to sort of endear me to the place. But in general, it's lovely. You know, it really is nice. A lot of the people there were very friendly. It's a nice place.
So you've been away from home now for a year, in your sort of tax exile, I should say. Can you remember April 1983 when you finally returned home? What sort of welcome do you see? Oh,
it's great. Yeah, there's loads of them. All the fans turned up at Blackbush. Like, arrived back at Blackbush, where I started the round the world trip from.
That's right.
And the same aeroplane in Navajo. And I remember we had to go into Southampton to clear customs, and then we went from there to Blackbush, where we was waiting, you know, to meet the family. And as you come over the top, it was like a solid black line all along the side of the airfield. And it was great. It was really nice. Wasn't sure what it was at first. You know? And we circled over the top and come into land, and then as we pulled up, they all just come over the fence, and I don't know how many worked. There must have been, I don't know, 1,000.
There must have been.
A lot of people.
And they just broke through the line of
security.
They
just climbed over the plane.
I remember your propellers were still going off.
Yeah, I was a bit worried. But first of all, I thought it's a bit off jumping on an aeroplane. You know, no matter how excited you are, I wasn't too keen on that. You know, I thought, you know, fair's fair. But in general, I really couldn't complain. I have that many people there. And obviously sort of really excited. And I'd been gone for a year.
That's right.
I hadn't seen for a year. It was lovely. It's ever so nice. I couldn't have wished for anything nicer. It's the sort of thing that when you want to be famous, it's that sort of thing that you want to be it for. You know, those sort of scenes. It was lovely. Like when I left, actually, to go around the world, hundreds of them turned up at the airport, and I was like running all through the terminals. I had to go into a storeroom and be locked away, have a police escort to get me out and through it all. It's really nice, that sort of thing, when they bother to do that.
Gave your love songs, wave over, and keep your pictures, leave them seen. Keep your kind words, and keep your tears. I'm only here for 1,000 years here on this present moon. Have you been here? Have you ever been here?
So that must have affected you, and it must have helped you in your final decision to once again return to the British stage. Must have done.
We'd already, after the American tour, I'd already decided that I wanted to have another go in Britain and sort of like do it again. But that going on, I can't honestly say that if that hadn't have happened, then I wouldn't have done the tour. It certainly made doing the tour seem all the more sensible. It was like the final thing you needed, if you like, the final little piece of evidence, or however you want to put it, that you should go and do something like that and come back again. Because there was a lot of, there was going to be a lot of losing of face, because I said I was going to retire, and obviously now I was coming back just like they said I would, and I really hadn't intended to. And so I had to sort of accept that. But when you get that kind of reaction, and none of them cared whether I was losing face or not, all they wanted us to do was come back again. It was lovely, yeah.
Have you ever been here?
If only the sun would shine tonight. If only the sun would shine.
Now the tour that followed was the Warriors tour in '83. But why that image, that sort of Mad Max image?
I was a really big fan of the film, the Mad Max films. I've been listening to the music business, the music that was around at that time, and I just thought everything had gone a bit lightweight again. And I wanted to do something which was a little bit more aggressive. So I started writing the Warriors songs and Sister Surprise songs, that sort of thing. And I wanted to have an image that would be a little bit more aggressive as well. And the Mad Max thing was, it was the most striking film I've seen for years and years. It was brilliant. So I decided to go with that image.
Why did you use that desolate city-style stage scenery?
Because I had the image, the Mad Max type thing. I wanted something that would go with that. I didn't really... See, the Mad Max thing had been set in the desert. I just thought it would be a little bit more interesting, or different even, to put it into a city situation, maybe that kind of a character. Because I wasn't actually taking it as being Mad Max, I was just using that as an idea for the image side of it, and then taking my own character out of that. I just thought I wanted to put it in a city, and so I designed with Nick Fisher. What a set that you saw, the desolate buildings that bits of them broken up, and like we was all running around in these old tenements.
Why did you do such a big tour with the Warriors tour?
It was an idea to take us to the fans. See, the last thing we'd done in England in Britain had been Wembley, where we had expected and hoped people would come from all over the country to us, and it was the opposite of that. It was taking us to everybody all over the country again. The reason for 40 years, I'd read something about people didn't do 40 gig shows anymore like they used to the big mammoth tours, and I wanted to prove that we could still do that we were still big enough to do that. But the idea of being able to take the show all around the country to where the people were, so that they didn't have to travel anymore to get to us. So all they had to do was buy the ticket, and they could like almost walk to the show, and we would be seen to be taking the trouble, and it was trouble, to travel all over the country with a show like that, and actually be bothered to take ourselves to them, because there was a big tendency amongst, which I didn't start it, but I was certainly part of it, to just do big prestige venues, which I really enjoyed at the time. But there was a tendency for people just to do that, just to do London or NEC in Birmingham, these kind of places, and nowhere else, and expect the fans to pay like 5, 6, 10 quid, whatever it was for a ticket, plus another 50 odd quid to travel. And even then, times were getting a lot harder, and people couldn't really afford it anymore. And it was for all of those reasons, really, just trying to not be seen to be caring for the fans, but to be caring for the fans, really. Making other people aware of it, perhaps, that they should be doing that as well. I've always thought that about the shows, that when people, other acts, see them, then it should make them, I hope it'd make them feel a little bit guilty, that they weren't doing something like that, and it would inspire everyone to get into doing big shows again. That was the original intention, but it never did work, really. And I sort of think on the Warriors period, I was trying to do a similar thing.
Any problems during the school?
The only one major problem that we had, that the man doing the lights, Nick Fisher, we had 2 weeks to rehearse it, and he went ill and wasn't around for about the first 10 of those days, and so I had to do all the programming of the lighting, computers and desks and things myself, which was actually quite handy, because when we got another man in to do it with James Dan, we really only had a few days right at the end of it to actually come to grips with the whole show, which is quite complicated. I'd already worked out all the lighting patterns, he just had to learn that, as opposed to getting in there himself and thinking up his own and doing all that business, which takes a lot of time, rehearsing the songs. So I used to be there till quite late at night, early in the morning till quite late at night, with a tape, just going through the songs one after the other, working out all where I was going to do it, and actually being like my own lighting man down the front doing it all. Then when James came in, I just said, this song goes like this, and you press this button here and that button there. Whereas before I probably would have done the same thing, but would have done it together. I would have discussed it as we went along together, Well, I'll probably do this sort of movement then, so I'll want that light to come on. And you say, oh, I see, man, what about this one as well? And that's how you do it. On that particular tour, I had to do it all myself. Which is quite enjoyable, actually.
Was that particular tour an enjoyable one?
Yeah, it was good, actually. We had 1 or 2 problems with them. I don't like to say names, but Joe said some bad things about me afterwards on what he called the Newman organisation. And when I think of the aggravation problems we put up with because of him, I feel quite justified in saying that he was about the only problem we had on it. He would cause problems in hotels, he would demand... He was just a very demanding, arrogant sort of chap. An absolutely brilliant player. I will never take anything away from him. But he said in an article that he didn't feel he got the recognition that he deserved because he co-wrote most of the songs. He only played bass. You don't write a song because you come in and play a bass line. You're paid to play a bass line because you're a bass player. And if every bass player that went into the studio said, oh, right, now that I've played a bass line, I've co-written that song, we'd be in a state of chaos. Now, then the drummers say, oh, yeah, right, well, I wrote a bit of it as well then. It's not like that. I wrote the song, and he played a bass line under my direction. I said, I want this sort of playing there, what's the slide pieces there, these are the notes, and then you play it. You know, so I don't think that was very good. No, I think that was very unprofessional of him. And I think his whole attitude in the talk was unprofessional.
Time that Tick and Tock were an unusual support act. Why did you use Tick and Tock?
I just thought that was absolutely brilliant, perfectly suitable. I worked with them before when Shock did Wembley, because they were part of Shock. And I knew Tocky really well. I really liked Tocky. He was great, really genuine sort of chap. And I just thought they were good. I bumped into him every now and again, sort of since the Wembley thing. It was simple as that, really. I saw some of the stuff that they was doing. And I just thought it'd be a very, very interesting and unusual support act that I would be able to incorporate in my own show, which we did on 2 songs that were friends with most of the band. They knew all of us, and we knew them. We worked together before, so I knew that they were reliable on the road and wouldn't cause us any problem. And I thought the fans would find them interesting and different, which is what happened. They are probably about the most popular support band we've ever had.
Would you say that you were more relaxed on that Warriors tour?
Oh yeah, different person entirely. Really enjoyed it. It was good fun. I went on stage, wasn't that worried about it. Just enjoyed it. I mean, I was concerned it was a good performance and we all played well and I remembered the words as much as possible, that sort of thing, and I was moving well. I wasn't worrying about the light system breaking down anymore and that sort of rubbish. It's good. I just got on and just genuinely enjoyed having people screaming at me, which I hadn't really done before. Which is a rather nice thing if you think about it. And it's a nice way to spend an evening.
Were there any incidents that you can recall that happened on that particular tour?
Yeah, one or two. At Hemel Hempstead, we all arrived there, and the crew took the big towers, the buildings off of the lorry, and it wouldn't go in. Wouldn't go into the venue. I think it went in the door, but wouldn't go around the bend. You know, there was like a curved corridor, something like that. Anyway, and so we had to cancel it there and then that day because we just couldn't get the set in. Some people started saying that I should have gone down to the gig personally and waited outside and told people that it wasn't on. I can't see why, do you?
Not really.
No, why should I have gone down there personally and said that? It wasn't my fault. I didn't make the bloody thing. You know, as far as I'm concerned, when we organised the tour, the lighting company, it is their job, and they should, and said that they had, gone to all the venues to make sure the thing fitted. Now, they did, but what they forgot to take note of that the thing wouldn't actually get into the building. Once it was in there, it would go up all right on the stage. It wouldn't actually get to the stage, which nobody thought of. Well, I don't see any reason why I should have gone down there personally for 12 hours and waited for the individual people to arrive and then tell them I'm sorry it's cancelled in person.
Who suggested that to you?
Some of the fans that turned up said that the people there, we think it's a bit off. And, you know, I mean, I don't know what people listening to this are going to think about it, but I don't personally. It's like Henry Ford wouldn't go out personally and apologise for any car that broke down, would he?
Quite right.
Yeah, with some of those sort of things are just a little bit impractical.
Love me, I'm James Durant. You could tell me when you were young. Forgive and forget the rhythm of the evening will tear us apart again. Talk, guy, I really talk. Downtown he lies, pleasure and nothing more than vacancy. I'm not the man who loves, but the rhythm of the evening will tear them apart again.
Warriors album, was it a theme album, sort of similar to it?
Not really, no. It was a sort of a collection of things, really. Some of the songs, I'll go to some songs. Warriors was more or less about how I felt at that time, sort of being a pop star. I felt like I was, in some ways, I was losing it all a little bit, and I was falling and slipping further down the ladder of success. There's a line like, now I'm feeding on strangers. Yeah, and that's how I felt, guys. It's very hard to explain it sort of now, because I don't feel that way anymore, and it's hard to remember how you felt. There's a line like, I'm the ghost of the white-faced clown, and that was a direct reference back to the old images that I'd had before, and I wanted to establish that was all done and over. You know, me Star Wars, Buck Rogers type period. Even though I was doing Mad Max, I saw that as being very different parts of my career. This is almost like part 2, if you like. Well, that was, the Warriors was part 2. The Ask Me Ain't Come song was directly to the press, because I just knew what they was going to come out with when I started touring again and come back. This Prison Moon, that came from I used to write lots of short stories, always have done really. And it's one of those, it's about a colony on the moon, where like a prison colony, a little bit like Escape from New York, but just taken a bit further. No matter what you did, be it shoplifting or whatever, you'll be sent off to there. And My Centurion was entirely about the airplane accident, the plane crash. All about it. Trying to summon up how you feel when you know it's going wrong, and then what you feel when it's going wrong. All the things that are going through your mind. I tried to put all that into words. And then there was another song called The TikTok Man. That was about one or two of the groupies that I'd met.
It's so fortunately arranged. Don't look back, I'm gonna show you that you won't like what you see. You step on my knees,
I could whisper.
you went through long.
I could whisper.
You close in, and I'm so uneasy.
Now, with all this going on in '83, did you find any time at all for flying? You haven't mentioned flying.
Yeah, in 1983 I started getting into air display flying. I'd met a man called Dizzy Adicott and Peter Hawke, and they were display pilots, mainly flying DC-3, which is a big twin-engine World War II airplane. And I started to get into display flying, and that's how the display flying interest started, actually. Just a chance meeting. I was hanging around the airfield one day, and there was an interesting airplane called a Heron, and I went out to have a look at that, and I started talking to one of the men that was around it, who was Peter Hawke. And because of him I got a ride in the Dakota, and because of that I met Dizzy, and it went on from there. And then I used one of their aeroplanes in the Warriors video called a T-33, a jet fighter, and Dizzy flew that and I was sitting in the back of it pretending to fly it. And that's how I met Dizzy, really, because of that video. And it all went on from there, and I got very interested in display flying, became good friends with sort of Dizzy and Peter, who were very, very helpful in getting me into display flying. But sort of during the '83 period, it really was just the beginnings of it, and I was still suffering enormously from the press And so I used to find it very embarrassing going to shows and going to the briefings, because everyone would be looking at me like I was something off of Mars.
What attracted you to display flying, Gary? Because it's widely known to be somewhat dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's some reasons for it being dangerous, and some reasons why the danger side of it is overrated. If you have certain parameters when you're flying the aeroplane, but if you, what they call, I think what the military call them entry windows. For example, for a certain manoeuvre, you'll have a particular speed and a height. You mustn't be below that speed, in some cases above it, and you mustn't be below a certain height. If you have those things, and the engine keeps running, then nothing will go wrong, because the aeroplane will always do a certain thing with those parameters. It's when you start to get a bit carried away and you're not quite at the right height, but you think you'll go for it anyway, or you haven't quite got the right speed. That's what makes it dangerous. And so the danger side of it, apart from sort of drastic mechanical failures, is more to do with the pilot and his attitude on the day. So in some respects, the danger side of it is a little bit blown out of proportion, really. But obviously it is dangerous on the other side of it, because if you do have the mechanical failure, at low level when you're upside down, you really haven't got that much chance of getting away with it. But if you're just flying along across the countryside somewhere, you've got quite a good chance of getting away with it, as I did, as we've already talked about in my accident. I think display flying is possibly, apart from maybe military flying, the most exciting kind of flying that you can do. You are legally allowed to fly along at ridiculously low levels, which you're not normally allowed to do, to fly very interesting kinds of aeroplanes in front of people, which is sort of nice for your ego. I think everyone's a bit of a show-off at heart. Certainly all the pilots are, whether they admit it or not, they are. They all like it. All play to the crowd a little bit. I just think I love the company as well, the people there. An entirely different set of people to the music business. Very educated, very clever, interesting sort of people to talk to. Oh, if you're interested in airplanes, I suppose they're interesting anyway. People like Dizzy, World War II fighter pilot, a ferry pilot, which is a real good job. Interesting job. Then he was a test pilot after that, ended up working on Concorde. Those sort of people, one conversation with those is worth like 6 months flying. You learn so much from them. And for all those reasons, really, I love it. I love the atmosphere, the excitement, the sensation of it, the company, everything about it. I really do. And what I was saying some time ago about making you feel like a man and proud of yourself, display flying is yet another step up that sort of road, really.
Somewhere in dark corners, I know something is wrong. No death, no talking, just this long wait of pain. Scream, scream, we're going down. Wait for the night.
Now, Warriors was the last album on the Beggars Banquet label. Why did that association come to an end?
It was sort of coming to an end anyway. We didn't have that much longer to go on the contract. I think maybe another album or two still to run on it. I really wasn't very happy with WEA. We had a meeting in '83 with the then managing director of it, as the Warriors album was coming out. He said to us that he knows that he hadn't looked after us very well. They hadn't given us the promotion that we deserved on the Assassin album, which probably accounts for its bad sounds, and that we'd been relatively hard done by, which was music to our ears, and that the managing director, owning up to this, which we'd known for a long time anyway, he'd promised us a virtually unlimited budget on the Warriors album. And then shortly before the album come out, he got the sack and another man come in who didn't like us and pulled all the money out again. We was right back where we started from, so we was extremely upset and just generally pissed off with why this had been going on for 2 or 3 years. And I felt then, as my career was just going further and further and further down the pan, and there was doing nothing to stop it. They was accepting the fact they was going to sell so many thousands of albums, So they'd make so much money, so they'd only spend so much, so they could keep so much profit. It's as simple as that. They wasn't prepared to invest to keep it all going and build it back up, or whatever I felt that they had to do, or we felt that they had to do, which the previous managing director said that they should be doing and were going to do. And it was really disheartening, so late in the day, of this massive tour planned. He'd really worked on this album. I started to work with the producer, like Bill Nelson came in on it, who, despite how we and him got on, which wasn't particularly well, he's a very clever man, he knows it, unfortunately. And it was just all of that was going on, you know what I mean? And so I thought, I was really itching to get out of the contract anyway. And we caused so much fuss and so much eruption and upset up there, but at the end of that period, after the Warrior stuff had come out, they was glad to see the back of us anyway. Like, one of the men there said that we had a single out called Sister Surprise, and we did Top of the Pops with it one week, and it went down a place or two. And he said, if you have a single out and you get Top of the Pops and it don't go up, then you must be doing something wrong. And I said, well, I can't believe that, because for a start, you can't expect people to rush out and buy a song after they've heard it once. Now, this is the power of radio. You need to hear it several times for it to grow on you. On Top of the Pops is only any good if you've got a massive amount of radio play behind it, so people are getting to hear it, already get to like it, see it on the telly, and bang, and that's where you win. That's where the value of Top of the Pops is, in most cases. And all the other promotion that goes with it. And they hadn't done any of that. They're just a Top of the Pops on its own, isn't any good. It's like finding a canteen flask in the middle of the desert. It'll keep you going for another few minutes, but really it's just postponing death. It's no good at all. You're still going to die. I just thought their attitude sucked, personally, and they thought we was causing too much trouble. I'm talking here more WEA, because by this time, Beggars Banquet had become very much just a men in the middle who were taking their percentage for having found me in the first place, and they had no real connection with us at all at this point. All the advances came from WA, all the conversations and meetings, whatever, were all direct with WA, and Beggars Banquet, we hardly ever saw or heard anything from them.
Was you upset that part of your career was over?
I think afterwards I was a little bit upset that the whole Beggars thing had stopped. Although, as I've said, the close family thing that me and Beggars had been long gone anyway. Because there wasn't really that much to miss. It wasn't like the old days where I would go down there and just hang around the office and make tea and things like that. Sort of help out in the shop, whatever I used to do. It hadn't been like that for a long time, because Beggars had earned a lot of money. They'd gone a little bit more big business and were signing up people. They had so many people on the label I didn't know they had anymore. I don't think they did after time. They turned into a fairly big label. And so that family thing had gone. So no, not really. I think when it was all over, I sort of remembered back to when it's like a family and regretted that thing passing, but not really, not that much.
giving. I'll send your tape. Is this such dog business?